You were never just skin and thought. You were a ripple in a current older than time, a breath the universe whispered into bone, but the world wrapped you in noise, in names, in stories that made you forget the sacred geometry of your own form. Still, something stirs when your fingers rest on the side of your neck, doesn't it? A strange electricity, a warmth, a stillness so loud it feels like a song. You might call it coincidence, or nerves, but what if it's memory? Long before language, the body spoke in light, and there, just beneath your jawline, near the place where voice is born and silence returns, lives a gateway. Not symbolic, not metaphorical, real. A place where the veil between this world and the next is as thin as breath, where the soul rises like smoke through bone, where a simple touch can awaken not just the nervous system, but the forgotten being who once lived fully inside you. Have you ever wondered why ancient healers laid their hands there? Why every divine being in sacred art is drawn with light pouring from the throat or crown? Why some people tremble when whispered to from behind? They weren't reacting to sound, they were remembering the door. The door is still there, on your own body, waiting. This isn't a video, it's a reunion. You didn't find this by accident. You were called, not by me, but by something ancient inside your skin. If your soul stirred even slightly, don't let this thread fade again. Subscribe to the Spine Gospel, not out of curiosity, but because something inside you remembers. The body was never designed for survival alone. It was carved as a vessel of memory. Every curve, every hollow, every pulse beneath the skin, all part of a forgotten architecture. The neck was never just a neck. Ancient civilizations knew this. To the Egyptians, it was the passage where the Ka and Ba, the two souls, whispered to each other. In Taoist healing, this was the heavenly pillar, where the flow of Qi rises to merge with the divine. Vedic scriptures spoke of the Vishuddha, the blue wheel of ether, the space between truth and illusion. They saw the neck not as anatomy, but as a threshold, a corridor between the inner temple and the stars. Think of it, the neck is where breath climbs from the chest and becomes voice, where thoughts become sound, where the invisible becomes real. This is the alchemy of incarnation, the sacred process of energy stepping into form. But it goes deeper. In indigenous ceremonies, shamans would often touch the sides of the neck before a vision quest, awakening the memory of flight, of communion, of hearing the ancestors. They knew that behind that soft skin lies a gate, and when it is gently pressed, it hums. A silent tone, a forgotten frequency, not heard with the ears, but felt in the bones. Why do we tremble when someone touches us there? Why does a lover's breath on the neck feel like time slowing down? Because something ancient stirs, because that point was once the start of the divine spiral, where sound and light entered the body from above. And in temples carved into mountain stone, the priests built doorways shaped like the human form, narrow at the neck, wide at the shoulders, mirroring the sacred path inside us. But this truth was buried, not lost, but hidden beneath noise, science, and forgetting. Until now. When your fingers brush that place, just below the ear, just above the collarbone, the gate doesn't open outward, it opens inward, and something begins to remember what it was made for. The world taught you to see in fragments. It broke your vision into parts, muscle, bone, nerve, and told you that this was all you are. A body to be measured, adjusted, and explained, but not felt, not remembered, and certainly not worshipped. This is the great illusion. Over time, humanity drifted from the ancient understanding that the body is not just matter, it is memory. It is not just function, it is frequency. Every culture once knew that the body carried the signature of the soul, but then came the age of dissection, disconnection, and distraction. the age where charts replaced chants and medicine forgot the melody of spirit. Your neck, that slender column of mystery, became a passage for food, a tube for sound, a stack of vertebrae, but not a temple. Science drew maps of the body, marking arteries and nerves like cities and roads, but these maps are mute. They do not speak of the fire that moves through you. They do not show where fear lodges beneath your voice or where ancient joy rises like mist from your spine. These things are unmeasured, and so they are ignored. But you feel them. Even now, you feel it when your throat tightens, and nothing physical explains it. You feel it when your head droops, not from weight, but from weariness. You feel it when you speak a truth, and your whole being trembles with light. These are not mechanical reactions. They are echoes. We have been taught to seek healing through external means, medication, machines, manuals. But deep within, your body has always remembered, not just how to survive, but how to awaken. There is a quiet mourning in our bodies, a spiritual amnesia. We don't just forget facts, we forget frequencies, we forget that the body is a bridge and the neck is a threshold, the place where what is spoken and what is held meet in sacred tension. Touch your neck now. Can you feel it? That subtle pulse beneath the skin, not just blood, but memory, not just life, but longing. But not all is lost. Beneath the illusion, the ancient knowing still hums, soft, patient, unchanged. There is a deeper science, a spiritual science, one that listens to the body like a sacred scroll. And now, we begin to unroll it. Your neck is not just a connector of body parts, it is the antenna of you, your soul. In ancient teachings, the human body was never seen as random flesh. It was geometry, sacred in proportion, built to echo the cosmos. The neck stood as the golden bridge between two great realms, the head, seat of divine vision, and the heart, cradle of soul. Where these two met, truth was born. Not the truth you speak with lips, but the truth your entire being vibrates. From the spirals of DNA to the coiling of galaxies, the universe prefers the curve, and so does your spine. Right at the neck, where your cervical vertebrae twist and hold, the sacred spiral forms. Ancient mystics saw this spiral not just as structure, but as portal, a passage through which divine frequency flows. The ancients knew sound is creation. And where does sound first stir in the body? The throat. The neck carries the sacred power of Vak, the divine speech. Not every word you speak is just sound. It is vibration. It is intention becoming form. That's why sacred texts across cultures, from Vedic chants to African tribal songs, placed deep reverence on the act of speaking from the soul. The voice was never trivial. It was an act of magic. Science now catches up, naming the vagus nerve, the wandering thread that passes through your neck, touching the heart, lungs, and gut. But long before biology, mystics knew it as the serpent of light, coiled at the base, rising through the spine. They painted it in temples, sculpted it in stone, a silent reminder that our bodies carry divine design. Egyptian priests wore heavy gold collars, not as symbols of status, but as channels for light. Gold, the metal of the sun, encircled the neck to magnify frequency. In India, yogis practiced Jalandhara Bandha, the throat lock, not for exercise, but to preserve prana, the life force. The neck was a gate. What entered or exited mattered deeply. But when this gate is blocked, by fear, silence, or haim, the flow of light dims. You feel it as a lump when words are buried, as tightness when emotions are trapped, as hollowness when truth is abandoned. Yet the body remembers. Beneath all the tension, the gate still stands, waiting. And when you remember what lives within this sacred column of breath and bone, you begin to unlock more than posture. You awaken the language of light. The blueprints of divine design aren't lost. They're folded into your anatomy, quietly humming. And as we step forward, we'll unfold them together, piece by piece, through the hidden symbols and spiritual codes left behind by those who never forgot. There was a time when our ancestors did not build with stone alone. They built with memory, with energy, with the sacred knowledge that the human body was the original temple, and the spine, the holy pillar that held the heavens and the earth apart. If you stand before the columns of Luxor, or walk the inner corridor of a Mayan ziggurat, you might feel something strange stir in your chest, because those sacred structures were not designed to impress, they were designed to awaken. And deep within their proportions lies a secret that has echoed across continents. Your spine is the obelisk, your neck is the gate. They built temples to match the design of the body, because the body itself was seen as a divine blueprint, a living map that led back to the stars. Look closely. The ancients left clues everywhere. The twin serpents on the caduceus, the uraeus cobra rising from the Egyptian forehead, the kundalini coiled at the base of the spine. These weren't metaphors. They were sacred technologies. Symbols of a real force they had learned to activate, a current that rose from the base of the body, passed through the narrow channel of the neck, and exploded as light in the skull. In Africa, they adorned the neck with rings. In India, with sacred garlands. In Egypt, with menats that carried the blessings of Hathor. The neck wasn't just a joint, it was a vortex, a sensitive sage between the lower and upper worlds, a spiritual threshold that had to be honored and protected. They dressed it not for beauty, but for balance, for remembrance. And the temples, too, followed this divine geometry. Every measurement was intentional. Every pillar echoed the length between the throat and the heart. Every stair mirrored a vertebra. Leonardo's Vitruvian Man came much later, but he too was rediscovering the proportions that had always been hidden within ourselves. Modern science laughs. They say myths are just stories, but what if these myths were manuals? What if temples were designed not just to house gods, but to awaken them inside you? Because when the ancients built in stone, they were carving messages into time. Messages that whisper, "You are the structure, you are the sacred design." And your neck is the hinge that remembers it all. So breathe, stand tall, and feel how your spine becomes a staff of light, carrying you back to the blueprint you never truly lost. We chase the stars, we decode scrolls, chant in temples, and breathe beneath moonlit skies, searching for the divine. But often, the key to the cosmos lies not in the heavens, but in our own body, resting quietly between the shoulders, the neck, soft, silent, often ignored. And yet, it is the ancient altar where breath, intention, and memory converge. For the mystics of old, this was no ordinary place. Tibetan monks, before entering states of deep meditation, would press 2 fingers to the base of their skull, not to think, but to surrender thought. African shamans placed warm stones at the neck's root, invoking ancestral protection. Indian yogis, breathing in rhythm with a thumb against the spine, awakened the serpent of inner fire. They all knew a truth long forgotten. To touch the neck with intention is to open the hidden gate, the gate between body and spirit. Why here? Why the neck? Because here lies the vagus nerve, carrying whispers from the body straight to the brain. Because here, beneath skin and bone, flow rivers of cerebrospinal light, bathing the pineal like a sacred spring. Because the neck is the only path where the breath rises, the voice speaks, and the head bows in reverence. It is the sacred bridge between thought and knowing, voice and silence, ego and surrender. When you place your hand on the back of your neck gently without demand, you tell your body, "I am listening." You tell your soul, "I am home." You remind the divine, "I have not forgotten." There is no ritual more simple, and none more sacred. Try this. Sit, breathe, let your mind empty like a vessel. Now, bring your hand to your neck, the spot where your head meets your spine. Don't press, don't think, just be. Feel the pulse, the warmth, the subtle flicker of life beneath your skin. That flicker is memory. That warmth is the source calling back. The neck is not merely a passage, it is a promise, and when touched with reverence, it remembers what you've always known but forgot. You were never disconnected. You were only waiting to be still enough to feel. You've just wandered through hidden corridors of your own soul, not as a tourist, but as a witness. And now, the world returns, with its clocks ticking, roads humming, and screens glowing. But something has shifted. You are not the same. There is an angel inside you, and no, she didn't arrive tonight. She was always there, not buried, not broken, just sleeping. Under layers of noise, neglect, and numbing routine, she waited for this moment of remembering. And now some part of her eyes have opened. Just a blink. But a blink is enough to change the course of a soul. You've seen what most refuse to see. That your body is not just bone and blood, but blueprint. That the pain in your spine is not punishment, but prophecy. That the buzzing in your head is not chaos, but a call. And that the ache in your chest isn't emptiness. It's the angel stretching her wings. But don't rush to understand it all. This isn't a puzzle, it's a portal. And portals don't open through logic. They open through stillness, through breath, through listening. So close your eyes, not to retreat, but to return. Feel the rhythm of your breath, ancient, sacred, untouched. It's the same pulse that moved through the womb of stars, the same whisper that hummed in the hearts of those who remembered before you. And as the silence deepens, feel her, not as a thought, but as a presence. The angel, still inside you, still waiting, still watching, still willing. And before this moment dissolves into the noise of the day, take this with you. You were never just flesh, you were always flame. And the divine spark in you never left, it only dimmed. If something inside you stirred tonight, let it stay awake. And if it brought you closer to truth, help it reach the next soul still searching. Follow this path, and follow us. The angel is not behind you. She is becoming you.